How to train your dog to love wearing a muzzle. We believe that all dogs should be muzzle trained, regardless of their size or their breed, but here are a few of the reasons why. Well, first of all, a muzzle may actually be required by the law. Unfortunately, breed-specific legislation is still in place in some countries, and this might require that some breeds have to be muzzled in public places. Legislation may also be related to the size of the dog. For example, where we live, any dog over 20 kilos should be muzzled and on leash whenever in a public area. Some dogs may react aggressively towards other dogs or humans, and for safety, a muzzle is therefore recommended. Now, you should also begin a behaviour change program of desensitization and counter conditioning to help your dog overcome his or her issues. So please contact a qualified force-free trainer or behaviour consultant to help you. An injured dog or a dog in pain may need to be muzzled for safety. Some vets and some groomers may require your dog to be muzzled. Dogs may have to be muzzled when travelling in certain areas, for example, if passing through passport control at a port, etc. They may have to wear a muzzle. So there are many different instances in which dogs may need to wear a muzzle, and how much better if they are happy to do so. In the upcoming short clip, I'm going to show you a couple of different types of muzzle. The muzzle that we're actually going to use for our muzzle training is a basket muzzle. It's actually a Baskerville Ultra, and it's a plastic muzzle. Now, a basket muzzle is often the best all-round muzzle for protection and for fit and for training. It actually allows the dog to breathe and to pant easily and to drink water and to take treats. So these muzzles can be worn for extended periods of time. And as I said, a dog wearing a basket muzzle can actually take treats, which is really important for rewards during training. We also have a vet muzzle, so I do show you one of those as well. These tend to be of mesh or fabric or nylon, and they're used at grooming parlours as well. Now, the drawback of these muzzles is that the dog can't pant, drink, eat treats with the muzzle on, so they should only be used for very short periods of time, not for general use. So it's not safe for extended wear. What else? Well, emergency muzzle. If you don't have a muzzle and need one in an emergency, you could actually make one yourself by using, for example, a piece of gauze or even your leash. If you've got a leather or nylon leash, you could use your leash to make a muzzle, a temporary muzzle for the dog. There are enclosed muzzles. Now, these are often made of leather. The drawback here is that they go right across the front of the dog's snout. So although the dog can breathe okay, because they should be big enough that they can do so, they're not going to be able to drink. They're not going to be able to take those treats. So again, that's not the sort of muzzle that I actually use or recommend. We have short snout muzzles. Again, a drawback with this is the same. The dog can breathe, they can pant, they can cool off, but they're not going to be able to take those treats. However, for some dogs, for example, your brachycephalic, your short-nosed dogs, we do now have these muzzles, and they've got an opening at the front for the eyes and the mouth so that you can just pop a treat through. Because those short-snouted, those brachycephalic, those flat-faced dogs can be very difficult to fit with a muzzle. I'm also going to show you a head halter, and I do mention in the clip a head halter is not a muzzle. The reason that I show you it is because a head halter, if you're using one temporarily while you're training a dog to walk nicely on a loose leash, could be conditioned in exactly the same way as we're going to condition our muzzle. So it's the same process. And you also get muzzle loops, and these do look a bit like a head halter. They're usually just a little bit wider, and quite often they've got a little loop on the bottom that the lead can actually be fastened to, as well as to the to the harness or to the dog's collar. So that would be a muzzle loop, and they can be fitted in such a way that they're tight enough that the dog would not be able to open their mouth to full extension and, for example, bite, but loose enough so that the dog can eat and drink and pant sufficiently to cool off. So that's just a quick overview of some different types of muzzles. And the main thing that I'm going to say to you is that you make sure that the muzzle fits your dog correctly, that it's comfortable for your dog, and that it's fit for purpose. Now, if your dog is not going to be wearing a muzzle for any extended period of time, and your goal is simply to muzzle train your dog, for example, in emergency situations or visits to the vets, then you would probably choose one of those nylon vet or grooming muzzles.
Okay, there are a couple of different sorts of muzzles, but it doesn't matter whether you're training your dog to wear a basket type muzzle or one of these nylon style muzzles that are quite often used in groomers or vets offices, or even a halting. The process is going to be the same. What I will say about the head halter is that this isn't actually a muzzle, okay? It's something that's used for an aid while teaching a dog to walk nicely on a loose leash, and so it can be very helpful, but it's not actually a muzzle. However, you will condition it in exactly the same way.
You are going to need lots of super high value treats, which should be small, easy to chew and easy to swallow. And by lots, I really do mean a lot. Please don't underestimate how many you will need. So make sure they're in tiny pieces. Recommendations are things like sausage, meatball, chicken, ham, hot dog, liver cake, sprats, but it can be anything that your dog absolutely loves. So I'm going to suggest that it isn't their normal food. You want something absolutely extraordinary. I also recommend a tube of squeezy cheese. Now, if you can't get squeezy cheese, so cheese in a tube, you can probably get canned cheese, or I am sure you can buy a tub of creamed cheese. Peanut butter is also a good option. But please do make sure that if you're using peanut butter, it doesn't contain xylitol, an artificial sweetener that's toxic for dogs. Let's get started. Step 1, we're going to make use of respondent conditioning. All this means is that we're going to condition a positive emotional response to the sight of the muzzle. The muzzle equals treats. This is not contingent on any particular behavior, so your dog doesn't need to be sitting, they don't need to be standing, they don't need to be lying down. You show the muzzle and you feed treats. You can mark with a yes if you wish to do so before you feed the treat, but actually there's no reason to do so because, as I said, it's not contingent on any particular behavior.
So what you're going to do to start is that you're going to get your muzzle out, and you're just going to let your dog look at it, and you're going to give them treats. So you're not asking them to do anything, just muzzles out, and that means that they get treats. Yes. Yes. And you're going to repeat this several sessions. Yes. Short sessions, 2 to 3 minutes long, several times a day. Yes. And I'd do this for at least a couple of days before you even attempt to put the muzzle close to the dog. Yes. So that's it. Muzzle comes out, she gets a treat. Yes.
So good things happen when the muzzle appears and they stop when it goes away.
Muzzle goes behind your back, no treats. While there's no muzzle, there's no treats. It's only when the muzzle appears that the treats come out. Yes, good girl.
In step 2, we're going to continue our respondent conditioning. We're conditioning a positive emotional response, a happy response to the sight of the muzzle. And again, this isn't contingent on any particular behavior. So you're going to feed a treat every single time you present the muzzle. The dog can be sitting, standing, lying down. It's absolutely their choice. And please do not try to put the muzzle on the dog at this stage.
Yes, we're just bringing it near her. Yes. If your dog does put their nose in, well, that's a bonus. Yes. But as you can see, I'm not trying to put this over a nose. Yes. I'm just letting her see. Yes, that is a good thing. This muzzle brings lots of treats. Yes.
Step 3, we're going to use the muzzle as a dish. You'll pop your hand over the end of the muzzle and fill it up with delicious treats. Your dog's going to put their nose into that muzzle to eat their treats. And as soon as they've finished eating, I want you to pull the muzzle away. So you don't want the dog to back away from the muzzle. You always want them to be coming forwards. So you quickly remove the muzzle.
So you're going to put some treats, a few treats, into the bottom of the muzzle. And you're going to hold it like that, put the treats in so that you're catching them. And you're going to hold this, and she's going to put her nose in there to get these treats. Good girl. And take the muzzle away. I don't really want her to pull her head out because I don't want her to get used to pulling away from the muzzle. I want her to be used to going towards it. Okay? So get a few more treats. I'm going to put my hand there. So drop one. In they go. So they're cut in my hand. Present it to Tessa. She puts her nose in. She gets the treats. Good girl. And I pull it away. And I'll do once more to show you. So I've got some nice tasty sausage here. Hand over butter so that it doesn't fall straight through. Food in there. Present it. She puts her nose in. I don't put it on her. Good girl. And I bring it away. Good girl.
Step 4, we're going to introduce duration of wearing the muzzle. You're going to present the muzzle, and as soon as your dog puts his or her nose into the muzzle, you're going to feed delicious treats through the end of that muzzle. You then take the muzzle away before presenting it again. Please do not bribe. So I don't want you to put a treat at the end so that the dog is lured into the muzzle. I want this to be the dog's choice. The dog comes forward into the muzzle and the treat miraculously appears.
The next stage is that you are going to put this on the nose for a few seconds. Okay? So I've got my food ready. I'm going to hold it like this underneath, and I'm going to see if she puts her nose in. Yes. And if she does, I'm going to feed her through it. Yes. Yes. Away, so she puts her nose in. Yes. Yeah. And I bring it away. Yes. It's okay if they don't, you just wait. She will at some point. Yes. Good girl. Yes. Yes. She bites at it, just ignore. Yes. And this can be the point at which your squeezy cheese is a good idea, because if your muzzle hasn't got such a big opening, you might be struggling a bit to put the food through. Yes, good girl.
Please remember that you want this to be a positive experience, so don't reprimand your dog in any way, whatever they're doing. If they try to chew the muzzle, simply put it behind your back and try again. The dog can't get it wrong. Step 5, it's squeezy cheese time. Present the muzzle to the dog and feed your squeezy cheese through the end of that muzzle for a few seconds. This will help you further increase the duration of muzzle wearing.
Very good. Okay, so she's happily putting her nose in there. So next step is that I want her to keep her nose in there for a little bit longer. So I am now going to take my squeezy cheese, take the lid off. I'm going to hold the muzzle in the same way, let her come forward, but I'm going to feed her constantly for a few seconds to keep her nose in there for a few seconds. Yes, good girl. Is that nice? Good girl. And I bring this away. Okay? Muzzle comes back, nose goes in, and this lovely cheese starts again. Good girl. What a good girl in your muzzle. Good girl. And we take it away again. Muzzle out of sight, nothing happens. Try not to even give your dog much attention at this point when the muzzle isn't coming forwards. Okay? Muzzle comes forward. Okay, what's this? What's that? What's this? Yes. Notice I waited. She was heading for the cheese. I moved the cheese out of her sight and waited for her to put her nose in the muzzle. Good girl. And take the muzzle away again. You may have to repeat this for several days for your dog to feel comfortable. In fact, I'd like you to repeat it for several days before you start trying to actually fasten this muzzle onto their nose.
Step 6, we're now going to condition a positive, a happy response to hands pretending to fasten the muzzle. Yes, that's right. We're not actually going to fasten it. We're just going to pretend. We're going to get the dog used to the feeling of your hands going around the dog's head and neck and fastening that muzzle, but without actually doing so.
So I'll get my cheese again, let her put her nose through. What I'm going to do is just bring these straps round as I'm fastening it. So I'm just playing around her neck here. And I'm going to take it away. Good girl. So muzzle's gone. That's it. Everything stops. Muzzle comes back. We're going to repeat the straps again. So let me get the muzzle ready. So she puts her nose in. Yes. And we're going to bring these straps around again. So it's the feeling that she's getting of me going around the back of her neck and playing with these straps. And that's all I'm doing, as you can see. And away it goes again. We'll do that once more. So muzzle. Let her put her face in the muzzle. Yeah, good girl. The cream cheese starts again. And I play with the straps again. Good girl. Is that nice? Yeah. Is that really good, is it? Yeah. And away it goes again.
Before we continue to step 7, I would just like to say, for example, in the last clip, I only showed you 3 repetitions of fastening the muzzle around the dog's neck. You will need to do many more repetitions. For the sake of time in this video, I'm not doing as many repetitions as you should do before you move on to the next step. So please make sure that your dog is happy at each current step before you move on to the subsequent step. And now for step 7. We're going to accustom the dog to the full weight of the muzzle around their neck. We're going to loosely fasten the muzzle around the dog's neck. And please note that the muzzle isn't over the dog's nose. It's simply hanging from the dog's neck. You're going to feed some yummy treats and you can play some fun games.
Right, what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to fasten the muzzle around her neck. Not on her nose, but I am going to fasten it so that it's just hanging on her neck. Okay, so I'm going to take the muzzle. I'm going to go back to my treats this time. Just trying to put her nose in. I'm just going to bring it there. I'm going to give her a treat. While she's having the treat, I'm going to clip it, fasten it around her neck. Good girl. I'm not going to do this too tightly, but I just want it to be on her neck like that. Yes. Now you can give your dog lots of treats, but what you can also do is go and have a fun play session while they've got this hanging around their necks. A bit of movement is good so that they're getting used to the feeling of that being there.
Step 8, it's time for the dog to put his or her muzzle on. And yes, it's still the dog putting the muzzle on, not you. You are, however, going to fasten it. So first of all, spread some cheese, some squeezy cheese, or perhaps some peanut butter or delicious paté onto the end of the muzzle. Present the muzzle just in front of the dog's nose. The dog is the one who comes forward into the muzzle. You don't put it on. While the dog is licking the delicious spread out of the end of that muzzle, so whether you put in peanut butter or cheese or paté, you are going to fasten the muzzle. You will then immediately begin to feed some delicious treats before again removing the muzzle. Rinse and repeat this process. Now you can begin by feeding, for example, 2 treats. You can then increase the time by feeding 3 treats, by feeding 4 treats, by feeding 5 treats. Each time you present the muzzle, you can gradually increase the number of treats that you feed through the end of that muzzle. I would, however, make sure that you also have some shorter repetitions. So sometimes you'll just feed a couple of treats and take that muzzle off, but you're gradually increasing the duration of muzzle wearing.
So the next stage is that I'm going to put the muzzle on and I'm going to fasten it and leave it on for a few seconds. So in order to do this, I'm actually going to put some cream cheese here on the end of this muzzle so that she's getting a treat as soon as it goes on and my hands both free to fasten it. Okay, so we let her put her nose in. Pussies, come on, pussies. Yeah, good girl, very good girl. I'm going to quickly fasten it here around her head. It's the easiest one to fasten, is it, Tessa? I've got my treats ready. Yes, and if you noticed, I've left it loose. Want it to be comfortable for her. Yes. Yes, good girl. So it's nice and loose. Yes. I will fit it better than this when she's wearing it for a long period of time. This is just for training, but it's so loose. Yes. And give her one more. Yes. And I'm going to take it off. That's as long as I want your dog to have it on. Okay, give them a little break and then do the same again. So, put some cheese on it. Or some peanut butter. They tend to love peanut butter too. Put that there so she puts her nose into it. Yes, good girl. And I'm going to fasten it again. This time I'm going to put it on a bit better, a bit tighter, so it fits a bit better. Good girl. She's more or less finished licking that off. And so now the treats. Yes. 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 Good girl. And I'm going to take it off again. And what you then do is you build on this period of time that the dog has got the muzzle on. Yes, good girl. Just gradually build it up. So don't go out with them straight away with it on. But what you can do is you can put it on and do something fun that they really enjoy doing.
Now that actually brings us to the end of our formal muzzle training, but it's not time to just put the muzzle on your dog yet. Please, before you expect your dog to wear the muzzle for extended periods of time, enjoy some more fun training. Do some simple exercises that your dog enjoys. It could be that your dog loves to sit or down or spin or twist or just run around a bit and have some fun. Anything that your dog will enjoy. And obviously you can keep those delicious treats coming too.
And that is how you muzzle train your dog. Yeah.
Please slowly build up the period of time that your dog is wearing the muzzle. Remember, lots of treats and lots of fun. You want your dog to be happy when they see the muzzle. A final tip, use the muzzle frequently when you don't need to. Don't just put the muzzle on when you have to, for example, go to the vets. Use it at other times too, when you're just going to have some fun. You don't want to create a negative association with the muzzle. You want the experiences to be positive ones. And that's it. That's how you muzzle train a dog and make sure that your dog is happy to wear a muzzle. Short training sessions that you repeat over several days or even over several weeks. Please make sure that you go at a pace that's appropriate for your dog. The goal is for your dog to happily be running towards the muzzle whenever you get it out before you use it for any period of time.